Okay guys, Stormgate has just been revealed, and as always, I like to give you the honest truth, not the shilled version, of how I feel about the game. Just jumped out the shower and figured it's a good time to discuss this. Now, let's begin with the PC Gamer show in general, which was absolutely horrific. I'm not exactly sure what the style was that we were going for, but we had Sean kind of acting a bit like a camp host, which was just very, very strange. And we had this AI robot that wouldn't stop smiling. They were cracking these incredibly unfunny jokes, and it was like the audience was designed for like 3-year-olds. You can say what you want about the style, but for me, I thought it was absolutely dreadful and one of the worst showcases of games I've seen in a long time. I genuinely have no idea what they were trying to accomplish with this, and as a result, it left me a bit, what's going on? So we jumped directly into the game, and Tim Campbell here, the president of Frost Giant, is going to talk us through some gameplay. Now, I want you to note, just as I discussed in previous videos, that it's very, very difficult to trust anybody that has any affiliation with the game, aka Sean. You might say, how is Sean affiliated? His mother works for the studio. It's very difficult to trust content creators like Loco and other people that have been borderline shilled out. And also important to note, and don't be offended, they have a monetary vested interest in keeping this product alive. Now, first of all, I want to demonstrate that we jump into the game, and immediately, as the showcase goes, we have triple split screen. I didn't like the way they showed this off, because I just genuinely thought there's too much going on to take in, and it lasted about a millisecond. And I just thought you could just show the screen all in one go. But if we have a look, what you're going to see is, for me, you're going to see a game, and I'm being honest here, and I'm going to offend the Stormgate fanboys. Imagine I had built this game. Forget who is creating it, forget the name attached to it, and forget the copium in your brain that these guys are going to make the next best StarCraft, right? Forget all of that. Just judge it on what you see. That's all you can do. At the moment, what I see in this game is a knockoff StarCraft. We have the black and red on the units. The units have no quality in their textures. They don't look metal at all. The units are very blocky and doughy. And genuinely, it looks like if I attempted to make StarCraft 2 and release this, people would like go, oh, yeah, don't play that game. Looks like a knockoff mobile game of StarCraft. Don't bother. But because there are brand names attached to it and developers attached to it, and there's a lot of clout going on to the game, people are in insane levels of hype. Now, I like an RTS as much as anybody. If you want to know, I've played StarCraft since the start. I've been in Grandmasters. I've won Grandmaster games. I am a Terran player. I've also been in a Diamond/Masters Zerg. So I've played my fair share. I think I have around 5,000 games of StarCraft on my account. So I'm by no means some complete scrub that is just, just randomly hating on the game. I want an RTS game to survive. That's what we all want, right? But what I want to point out during this showcase is a lot of the content creators are saying things that simply cannot be judged. So, for example, Loco on the right saw this clip and said that he likes the pacing of the fights. You have no idea what the pacing of the fights is like, when clearly this is some meme army of 6 or 7 Marines facing a load of dog scouts and a pre-set up battle to showcase a few units. That doesn't mean anything in terms of speed. And I want you to pay attention closely to when you go to these videos and you see these people discussing the game. They have a massive vested interest in keeping this game alive. And so what they've ended up doing during all of this is they're actually dumping all over StarCraft. And you'll see them say things like, yeah, in StarCraft it was really hard for beginners to get into. Yeah, in StarCraft the fights are too fast. Yeah, in StarCraft the way the units move aren't good. Yeah, the units are too bulked up. I don't like this, I don't like that. But during the lifespan of the game, they've been hyping and shilling the game themselves. But now that there's another cash cow they can jump to, they can jump onto Stormgate and suddenly pretend like everything StarCraft did was wrong. StarCraft 2, I'd like you to know, is a solvable game. It's not a bad game. It's a brilliant game. And if they had some development time and put some more effort into, a load of these problems could be solved, and we don't need this. This studio, to me, is making a game as close as they can do to StarCraft, so then they have control of the product and then they can manage the balance and the esports side of things and take over it. So yes, we have Sean being giddy and all of this stuff, but let's be honest, when Loco reviewed this game, he said the UI looks fantastic, he said it looks crisp. It doesn't. Now, I know this is pre-alpha, but even if you go to pre-alpha gameplay of StarCraft 2, StarCraft 2 alpha, right, and you have a look at some gameplay, I like the way Stormgate's appearing, right? If we take a look at some alpha footage, I was looking at some last night, it'll be there anyway. The point is, it still looked decent. It still looked decent. If we take a look at the alpha, right, this is the alpha. So what they're saying is, oh, Stormgate is going to massively improve from alpha to launch, so don't worry about the graphics. But this is StarCraft 2 3 years before it released, so there was 3 years of like polish going on to this on top, and it looks very, very similar. Now, what I want you to know is there are 13 years. A friend of mine, SC2, pointed out there's 13 years between these games and they're looking identical. You've got miners, mining some blocks. You've obviously got some Vespian gas over there. You've got this really janky UI where text sizes and icons just generally look very poor. And yes, it's pre-alpha and art assets aren't final. But the point is, the StarCraft 2 alpha looked very, very similar to the end product. You don't drastically change. Once they've added the polish and you've got all these big battles skirming in the way the units move, it looks like, to me, you're in a big war. That's, to me, what an RTS game is. You're a real-time strategy and you're the commander of the army. And when I've been watching, I'll let the gameplay play now, when I've been watching Stormgate, it doesn't look like big armies. Now, some people say that's great. Brood War doesn't have big armies. No, but the battles are on scale. The devs are saying that, yes, you can have as many units on screen, if not more, than StarCraft, and big battles are possible. But I want to point out just how big the units are and that they are going to naturally spread out, and there's not going to be many units that can fit across this ramp. You're not going to have 10 siege tanks versus 10 siege tanks on a ramp with banshees going over the top. It's going to be like you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Marines is covering about 50% of the width of this area. So yes, maybe you can have a lot of units technically, but will that actually come into fruition? They've got building here and repairing and all kinds of stuff like that. You've got some zealot looking things, some marine looking things. And again, I'm turning the audio down so you don't get double commentary. I'll link the video in the chat, but it looks like a very, very mobile version of StarCraft. And people will say, oh, that's good. But is it? Is it really good? People were getting excited about this. I watched some content creators that had clearly been given the footage beforehand react to this. And what you'll notice carefully is the units begin to walk forwards, and before they reach the tree line, they go, oh, imagine if they couldn't fit through the trees. That would be so good. And then the units walk forward and they get blocked and they go, oh, wow, this developer company's thought of everything. They've clearly pre-watched it and they've clearly been positive about it, because if you're a massive StarCraft channel, why on earth would you be negative about one of the only RTS games coming out that has an affiliation with StarCraft? Now, I'm not asking you to be negative, and I'm not saying it's all negative. It actually looks quite fun, and it'll be a bit different, and there'll be some new strategies. But is it exciting? Does this excite you? Because that's what you've got to think about. I think of like the Red Alert 2, the incredible soundtrack, the Zerg campaign, the Liberty campaign. You've got all this stuff, and then you come together for these fights. And what I see here is a developer trying to showcase, hey, we can do the things that StarCraft do. Well, StarCraft 2 wasn't a bad game, right? It wasn't like these features were bad and they've had to fix them or something like that. They look generic carbon copy. A lot of the unit assets, which has been pointed out by the community, just look a lot like sort of a hybrid of Warcraft and Brood War. To me, it looks uninspired. That's honestly what I'm getting. If I'm not hearing that this is anything to do with the affiliation of StarCraft and the StarCraft devs, and I'm just judging this on what I see, I don't think I'd be interested in this, because I think this looks like just a simple worst version of StarCraft. Now, you might say over time it gets better than StarCraft because there'll be more development. But you could say that about a lot of RTS games. If you give them a load of dev time, yeah, they might improve, but I'm judging it on the product I see. We've got like medics, marines, we've got some like zealoty looking things, we've got a science vessel kind of thing, we've got a tank, a turret. The actual building sizes are very, very large, which means you're going to be limited in many ways. In terms of just how you place things and timings and all of that stuff. So yes, people are getting incredibly excited about this game because they're on the copium of, man, if this game pops off and I'm a StarCraft content creator, this could be my big break. Yes, I'm sure they'll focus on different elements, such as those little things like certain units can't go through certain trees, and when you run through the grass, certain physics move. But like, I think it was Asmongold, and I don't always agree with Asmongold's takes, but it's like StarCraft 2.5 with grass. And everybody's saying that, oh, it's coming out. It's coming out in the alpha, so it'll be even better. It'll be even... I don't think it will. I think what you're seeing here is what you're going to get. It is just, yes, there are big battles going on. There are skirmishes happening. Yes, there are some icons that make it visibly clear, but what you'll find the StarCraft content creators saying is, yeah, the StarCraft was just impossible for new players to get into, but this game solved it because there's some red circles on the floor that show where the attack's going, and the units are a bit bigger and slower. Listen, little Timmy that gets rolled in a 1v1 in a real-time strategy game is not going to find it any easier than playing StarCraft at the beginning. Strategy games are just really, really difficult, and seeing that there's some circles here that you have to move out of the way might help you initially, but you still are playing a real-time strategy game. A lot of their work is going into like team-based games, but it's going to be very difficult to balance all the units for team games and 1v1s. The structures are very big, the textures look very blocky, there's no shine to the units. Yes, we've got pro players like Dario, but again, they're not going to say anything negative about the game, are they? They work on the game. So as much as we appreciate their opinion, you have to formulate your own opinion. For me, I'm not excited about this. I think the UI looks poor, I think the graphics looks poor, I think the art style isn't for me. I like the gritty, like big battles with like it looks more like a cyber war. You've got the laser beams and the storms of the Protoss. You've got the gritty Zerg with all of the creep. This just looks like PG StarCraft. And again, yes, it's not the final product, and the game might be incredible. It might be. You might be right. But for me, this doesn't excite me. They've had 13 years of inspiration to take all the different RTS games in the world that have been released, and what we've ended up with is honestly something that looks like a cheap version of StarCraft 3 that I guess, yes, you've got a development team that can now look after it and will be more active than Blizzard. But the way the community is talking, it's as if StarCraft 2 has been this terrible game, and finally we're going to get developers that know how to make a strategy game. You're going to struggle to ever create a game better than StarCraft 1 and 2, because games that are good generally just kind of happen. Gears 1 wasn't meant to have a multiplayer. Dota was a mod. You've got like Warcraft mods, you've got League of Legends, which was a copy of Dota. You've got all these games that just happen. StarCraft 1 wasn't meant to be played like a super competitive RTS. It just formed that way. And I think it's very difficult to come out and say, we're going to make a game that's super detailed, because what you're going to end up doing is things like this, where you create units and strategies for the player. And really, in an RTS game, the most magical thing and what makes RTS games good is that the players come up with these things on their own. And in fact, often, a lot of the time, it's a complete fluke. So I am not looking forward to it.